Okay, so I've got a blank C# console application here opened. All right, so let's talk about variables. This is sort of fundamental. This is quintessential to learning any programming language, any sort of high-level programming language where you're dealing with memories, and you want to save information in memory and then perform some type of operation on that memory slot. Okay? So that memory slot, in order to save a slot in memory, in contiguous memory, we have to declare a variable. So a variable can be a thing like an integer, which is essentially a whole number, positive, negative. It can be a decimal. It can be a floating number, which are essentially decimals. It can be a string, which is a word, collection of words. It can be a character, which is a single character. And it can be, let's say, a bool value, which is essentially a true and false value. So, for example, in order to, let's say I want to create a variable, I would have to know what type of variable it is that I'm creating. So in this case, I want to create an integer. So the format is I have to type the data type, okay, and in this case it's an integer, int, and then I have to type an arbitrary name to give that integer. So right now it's going to allocate space in memory, and I'm going to say x, right? And I'm going to say x is equal to, let's say, 2, and then end up with a semicolon. So now I have my data type, which is an integer. I've given it a name, which is x, and the name can be any arbitrary name. I use the equal operator, okay, and the equal operator is an assignment operator. It assigns this 2 to this x in memory. So now I'm going to, let's say, type something else. Now you see the IntelliSense here is making a suggestion. Do I want to type y as well? Do I want to create a variable called y, integer variable called y? And it's giving me a suggestion. So I'm going to just take the suggestion and hit the tab key. Okay, so now I'm going to type something else. I'm going to type I want a float. So a float is a decimal. Okay? So a float, you'll be working a lot with floats and decimal values in order to get greater precision in your calculations and in your operations. So I'm going to say float. Let's say now I can't use the same variable twice. So I've got to change this to something else. I can't say x. Let's say a float. Let's say I don't know. Let's just say x. And I should make that, let's say, x float. Okay, make it a bit more meaningful. And this time I'm going to say 2.3. Okay? So this float can take a decimal value. The float is designed to take a decimal value, and I'm going to append the word f here. Okay? And I'll show you why in a second. So now I'm going to put the semicolon. So this statement now has to be complete with a semicolon. So now I'm going to type a decimal value. Okay, and decimal can take a longer float value, okay? A longer decimal value. So a decimal is a data type in and of itself. So I'm going to say, let's see, y. I'm going to call this y decimal. Like I said, it's any arbitrary name. Okay? I'm going to say 4.5856456. Now I'm going to append the word d there. Okay, so what's going on here? Okay, oh sorry, I've got to append. It's an m. Okay. So now I'm going to just go down here, and let's try creating a double. Okay? So a double is another type of float decimal value, and it can give me greater precision as well in terms of doing calculations. Whereas a float, this one here, is very limited in terms of how many decimal places it can go. A decimal value can actually take more decimal places, and a double can also handle a lot of decimal places as well. So I'm going to call this one double z double equals let's say 67.980, and that can append a double. I can append the d to that. All right, so now I'm going to create a character. Let's say a character is going to be a single alphanumeric symbol, CHAR. Okay, I'm going to say C equals, and I'm going to say single quote, let's say A. Okay, well, let's just say C, and close that with a semicolon. So every statement in the C plus in C sharp has to be closed with a semicolon. And now I'm going to type a string here. Okay, so a string is the keyword. Okay, it's the data type. String, I'm going to say the word. I'm going to say hello, and end up with a colon. Right? So now I've got these different data types and their corresponding variables and the values. Okay, so I've got in all these cases here, okay, I've got the data type here. I've got the variable type, which is arbitrary. I have the assignment operator here, and that assignment operator is going to allocate this value to this value here. Okay? So to this variable here. All right, so now I want to print some of this out to the console. So I'm going to type in CW and then press the tab, the shortcut. Okay, press it again. And I want, let's say, I want to type, let's say, I'm going to say value for X. Okay? And I'm going to hit the plus sign here. I'm going to say X. So now it's going to print the value of X. So I should spell that properly, FOR. So now if I press the, if I run this by pressing this one right here, okay, or I can press my F5 key as well. Okay, so the value for X is 2. Let me just close out of this one, and I should have put a space here. Alright, so I'm going to just copy this. Okay. I'm going to Control C. And I'm going to paste it down here. Now I want a new line here, so I'm going to go here and I'm going to type a backslash and the word N. So I want the value now for, let's say, for X float. So I'm just going to copy this one and I'm going to put it right here. And I'm going to copy this one. Okay, Control C, highlight, press Control C. Right, and I want the value, let's say, for this. Okay, so Z double. Okay, and I'm going to press Control here, click that, and I'm going to press V. Okay, so now I'm going to press the F5 key. Okay, as you can see here, I've got my values. Okay, so and this 4 is from a, okay, this 4 is from something else down here. I should have deleted this. Okay, so if I just delete that, I was doing something else. And I hit the F5 key or the run it. Okay, so here I get the information here. All right, so once again, you're creating a data type, allocating a variable name to it. You're using the equal operator to assign a value to it then. And all this is going to be saved in memory, and you're essentially going to manipulate that information in memory. So for example, if I want to add, let's say I want to add 2 and 3, okay? Okay, so I want to, let's say I want to print out X plus Y here. Okay? So in order to do that, I need to create another value here, another data type and a variable. So I'm going to say int result, okay, and hit, and not allocate any value to it. Okay. So actually, you know, I will do it. Okay, so I'll say int equals X plus Y. And let me just get rid of this. Okay. So now it's going to take the X and the Y value. So that's going to take, it's going to take 2 and 3. Okay, and it's going to save it in this. So I'm going to just do CW, and I'm going to print out the result. Okay, so the result of X plus Y is a space here. Okay, and I'm going to say plus result. So now I'm going to press my F5 key. Okay, so the result of X plus Y is 5. So the result of 2 plus 3 is 5. Okay. All right, so that's it for this, and let's go on to the next section.